the floor, disabled to the point I couldn't look anymore. A real beggar in a real state of poverty. But he prays every day, so he knows that there's gotta be another life where he can live as a strong man. And the ownership of Africa doesn't end up in the wrong hands. Western palms, buying and destroying people just to trade arms. Can someone tell me why Africa is just surviving? The whole land was a resource, plus they got diamonds. Used to be able to run your hand through the sand and get a handful of diamonds. Do you understand? How precious is the land if it's like that? You see, it's wrong to say it was taken by the white man. It was taken by the power hungry and the people that never saw the beauty of Africa, fam. They only saw the money. To them it was the land of opportunity. It's terrorism when it's done by either you or me. Treat these words like my eulogy and remember that I died being exactly what I choose to be.
My countrymen, for decades we looked to others to come and build our nation. That time is now over. Today we take the reins of our country into our own hands. And with our own sweat and our own hard work, by building 1 kilometer of road at a time, we will rebuild our glorious nation.
Today we're going to be talking about Ibrahim Traoré. I learned about this young leader not so long ago, only about a year now or so, or a year and a half. But he's one of the youngest leader in Africa. I think the youngest leader in the world. I think he's very young, and he seems to be shaking up at least continental African politics in the north, because I think it goes to a lot of things that's happening around the world in terms of geopolitics, even the old kind of style east and west. Many see him as a puppet of Putin. Many see him as just another African leader on the make. But there are lots of others who see him quite differently, actually. They see him as a revolutionary. They see him as somebody who's going to maybe change the pattern for Africa, which has been very much about resource extraction. Lots of leaders seem to have lots of money while their people don't. And the Afrikaan, who I think brought the whole issue of the French post-colonial system to people's attention. And there's the link over there to Dr. Afrikaan. But she explained about just a few years ago, and I think it was very prophetic. She explained that when the French decided to leave the Sahel regions, or when decolonization was at full pace, and the winds of change were happening, as Prime Minister Macmillan had said, when the African nations started to clamor for independence, the French decided that yes, they would give their colonies independence, but it was almost paper independence, because the military and the economic frameworks remained firmly French and firmly in the hands of the French, with lots of things, particularly the economy, like the currency, being dictated by Paris. So nations like Burkina Faso and Benin were not truly free. You can't control your economy and you can't control your military, you're not free. So the French have held on in a neo-colonial form to their former possessions in the north, in the Sahel. And by the way, I'm in a nice park here in the East Riding of Yorkshire. As I said, I'm a foreign correspondent for Africans. But so after learning all that from Dr. Afrikaan, I started to pay a little bit closer attention. I met some people who explained a little bit more, told me about Sankara, and taught me a few things about Africa that I probably should have known already. But anyway, Traoré's coming from that particular political context in Burkina Faso. He is a cat like Traoré coming in, talking independence in terms of movement and policy. It's independent policy because Africa is very not quite sure how independent African nations are in foreign policy outside of Africa. I'm not sure how much agency they have in the Middle East. I'm not sure. I don't think they have any agency in the West at all. And I wouldn't say that with any kind of. It's a sad state of affairs that that's the case, but I think it is in Europe even more so, Eastern Europe even more so. You just have to look at how Ukraine treated African students, let alone how they treated the African states when they tried to come in and broker some kind of peace with South Africa trying to speak with Ukraine. So there's a lot of prestige that needs to be established among the Africans. And again, Ibrahim Traoré at the moment seems to have captured a mood of millennials and young people who are sick and tired of all the rhetoric of the elephants that, we will wait until 2063 and for the Millennium Goals, and we'll go to Washington and to London, and we will bow down and kowtow and take whatever is given to us, and we will go back. No, Traoré is saying no. I'm going to build roads. The Faso Bawa, the road initiative, to where he wants to put in a lot of concrete and road infrastructure, is one of the biggest issues in Burkina Faso. And if he can get some wins in transforming the look of the country, and if you can get some wins in reducing the turmoil that the terrorists cause in the region, the Islamic terrorists, which have been long-standing issue since the Iraq War and the Libya War, which just created so many pockets of chaos in the Middle East and North Africa, and which has ravaged North Africa, ravaged Nigeria even, with all those particular terrorists. So if he can somehow maintain his grip on power, and he's been in power now for almost 3 years, which is seen as a long time for people, for any militia, any coup in Burkina Faso after 2 previous coups did not even last. The second one didn't even last a year before Traoré took in, but the first one lasted a year or two, and then the next one not even a year. Now it's Traoré, and Traoré's lasted 3 years. The question is, therefore, can he maintain that grip? Can he hold at bay the terrorists and maintain security, maintain order, and within that security and maintaining order, create a viable economic state which is prosperous? Can he create a vigorous civil society? Of course, there's question marks of whether he can do that, because he is, of course, ruling by decree. But again, there's other ways in which to stimulate civil society. China has shown that you do not need to have people getting elected all the time and going through popularity contests. I'm not denouncing democracy. All I'm saying is I studied politics, and yes, it is a popularity contest. And sometimes when it's a popularity contest, what happens is we always move towards the lowest common denominator, because that is the only way sometimes that we can see the big picture. We can't be too nuanced. But the point of the matter is, can he create a vigorous civil society that ideas can spring forth? Political ideas don't always have to be validated by the franchise. No, it's by the society itself, and the opportunities that are afforded by the society. So that's one of Ibrahim Traoré's challenges. It's two-pronged. Maintain security, protect his people, protect his borders, push back the terrorists. Secondly, he needs to stimulate the economy, and there's news going on. It's very difficult to determine which is the right news, but of course read my articles, which will be well sourced, so you will know what's happening. But in terms of the economy, there's lots of talk that it's doing really well, and there's lots of talk that it's all lies. So it's important to try and get the right sources to determine this. But prosperity has to come to Burkina Faso for Traoré to build on the promise that he's showing at the moment.
And we sit here and we ask ourselves, why isn't Africa moving forward? Why does Africa continue to be taken advantage of? Well, I'll tell you why, very simply. Until Africa comes together as a continent speaking with one voice, one continent, one people, nothing, and I repeat, nothing is gonna change. As individual little African countries, we are wannabe boxers. We will never make it fighting against the heavyweights. We must speak with one voice. And this is exactly what our Pan-African leaders wanted to see happen in 1963 when they came together in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. They clearly stated that Africa for the Africans at home and abroad, and that African Union was now.
You see, a paradise is where we might choose to go, but a heaven is the place where the angels go, so they can reason with the prophets, not bathe in gold. And it's not late for no one to save your soul.